Looks like we're okay now, Emily. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Jibb. I'm filling in today for Mayor Bill Kane, who may appear on some of your screens to be present, but he's actually involved with a county council budget meeting, and he is making every effort to participate with us where he can. Mayor Kane has called a special meeting of council for the purpose of holding a public meeting under the Development Charges Act to discuss proposed development charges. I can confirm quorum. We do have 4 members of council present, and we do have municipal clerk as well as other staff members with us. Thank you, everyone, for being here. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges their resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. The agenda's been circulated. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I would ask for a mover and a seconder, please, that the Township of Hamilton enacts that the agenda for the special council meeting held on December 8th, 21 be approved. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Pat, seconded by Larry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof today? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. The purpose of today's public meeting is to hear feedback on a proposed development charges, and I'm winging it here because I don't have this on my hard copy of the agenda of the development charges proposed bylaw. It is recommended that the Township of Hamilton go into public meeting to discuss such development charges under Section 12 of the Development Charges Act. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Pardon me, Deputy Mayor. For the benefit of those that are with us today, we do have on our agenda posted just some information that might be of benefit. So you mentioned that your printed agenda didn't have this information. I'm not sure if you can see the screen here and you can read from here. I can do that for you if you'd like. It's up to you.
Yeah, just please, if you would please fill in, Daphne, under the circumstances.
Sure. As you mentioned, that the purpose of the public meeting today is to hear feedback on the proposed update to the development charges bylaw to incorporate a new water development charge service and to meet the requirements of the Development Charges Act as amended. I can confirm that notice of the public meeting was provided in accordance with the Act on November 16th on the website and in November 11th in Northumberland News. So in following the chair, we'll lead the consultant, which will provide a presentation, and then any person of the public will be heard. Back to you.
Thank you, Daphne.
And again, there is a motion to move into a public meeting.
Motion, please, to move into public meeting at the council, go into a public meeting under Section 12 of the Development Charges Act 1997 at, I believe it's 1:10, or if our staff would correct that time would be appreciated, on December the 8th, 2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? And I can't say, I see one hand by Mark, moved and seconded by Pat. All those in favor? Thank you. Again, my agenda is not great here. I believe we're available to go to the consultants, Gary Scanlon. And I believe there's another Brian Tan with us from Watson and Associates. Gary, could we turn this portion of the meeting over to you, please?
It'd be a pleasure, Chair. Once again, it's always a pleasure to see members of council. We have a presentation which will provide a summary of the information that was contained in the background study that we circulated in November 16th. And that contains all the details, but I'll provide council as well as members of the public with a higher level summary of what's contained within that document. So like any other public meeting, we've had the opening remarks. We'll provide a presentation on the policies and the charges. It's then to receive any public input and questions of council, and then close the meeting. No decisions will be made, no bylaw, no passage at the end of this public meeting. Subsequent to this, and I'll note the dates, we'll be back for council to consider the bylaw. Next slide, please. The timing, we've been working with staff since June to update this background, to prepare the background study and update the bylaw to include water services. You can see that as of today, December 8th, that's the public meeting, and we'll be back before council on January 18th to consider the bylaw. It's important to note that as part of the development charge process, when we release the background study, there's a minimum 60-day period between when the report is released to the public, and a minimum 60 days has to pass before council can consider the bylaw. And as you can see, we've obviously met that minimum 60-day time horizon. Next slide. So as noted, the purpose is to count, the municipality currently does have development charges in place. And what we're looking to do is to supplement that bylaw to include water services for certain areas of the municipality. So the municipality provides municipal water, and this is to recover costs associated with providing the municipal water. If you are outside those service areas and you're providing your own well, these charges will not be paid for by you. You will pay for your own well, but where you are now receiving are seeking to receive municipal services, municipal water service, you will be paying these charges. Next slide. So development charges, they're to recover growth-related or costs associated with servicing new growth within the municipality. So that's both residential and non-residential. These costs are in addition to what a developing landowner may put in place. If you're building a subdivision, a developer would have to put in the localized pipes. These costs are basically to provide additional services. Next slide. We are dealing with a number of changes that the province has introduced over the last year and a half. And you can see there's these 4 different bills. So as part of the amendments, we will include these updates. Basically, Bill 108 was allowing for an extended period of time for certain types of developments to make their payments. If it's rental housing or if it's institutional development, they're allowing to pay over 5 years from the date of occupancy. So you'd make 6 payments, with the first payment at the date of occupancy and the residual payments made over 5 years. If you are affordable housing or nonprofit housing, I should say, this new legislation allows for the payments to occur over 20 years. Bill 197 made some refinements to the act, made some adjustments to calculations and such, and made some other refinements to legislation. Those are being put into play as well. Next slide. And once again, this just summarizes I've talked about the rental housing and the nonprofit and the institutional being allowed to pay for their charges over an extended period of time. I didn't mention the fact that there's also, if a site plan application is made to the municipality or a zoning bylaw amendment application, then the province also allows for a period of time. They would freeze the charges as of the date of the application being received by the municipality. And those charges would then be frozen until 2 years after the approval. If you approve the developments and they don't build within that 2-year time period, then whatever the charges are in play on the date that they actually take their building permit, then will be the charge in effect. The last bullet just notes that for any of these delayed payments, interest may be attributed, so that obviously the cost of money, inflation, extends every year. So the province has allowed for interest to be applied to those payments. Next slide. Once again, this talks about Bill 197. There are changes that have been made. They removed the 10% mandatory deduction for the softer services. They've also removed the planning horizon going from, we were restricted to 10 years, but that won't affect these calculations, but in the future, when we update the bylaw, it may. And there are some refinements, not that it would really affect these calculations, but they've changed how we've defined services, and some of these services might be combined as a class. Nothing significant to be concerned about. Is more what the consultant has to do when we're doing these certain types of calculations. As I've noted, we've updated the services. We're proposing to update the bylaw to provide for water services, and that would be put into effect in the Creighton Heights area and the Camborne area. This information is based on analysis that's been done by GM Blue Plan, and they've gone into detail to assess the capacity needs for these areas and to identify the potential growth that could occur. And they did identify a range of developments. We've, until certain things happen and certain analysis can be done, it's felt that 132 units would be allowable in total. And we've utilized that number. There may be further capital improvements that have to be made in order to go past this, but we've stayed with the 132 units. I'd note that the municipality will also consider, if you're an existing home, let's say on a well, and you wish to hook into these systems instead of providing the service through a well service, you'd be allowed to do it by the municipality, but you don't also have to pay these charges. Next slide. So just I'm just noting what the bylaw, so we've got a draft amending bylaw that's attached with the report. And once again, what it's providing for is the timing of payment provisions for rental housing, institutional, and nonprofit. It's providing for that rate freeze for the site plan and the zoning bylaw amendment applications. There are certain types of mandatory exemptions that the legislation's provided for. So we've tweaked the bylaw to allow for that. And then associated with the above, we needed to refine some of the definitions and add a couple, and that's being provided for as well. Next slide. The charges we've spoken about are summarized here. So on the right-hand side, if a single and semi-detached home is hooking into the system, then the development charge would be just under $7,500. Multiples would be more like townhouses, and then we've got categories of large and small apartments. And you can see the corresponding charges for the water service for those type of units. Non-residential would be a little over $3 per square foot, depending on the size of the building. Next slide. This would be the changes that we're speaking about to the bylaw. Right now, the bylaw provides for the above, the higher part of the table. Services related to a highway is basically roads, fire, indoor-outdoor recreation, library, and then general government studies. And what is the only change we're making through this is to add the water category, and only within the Creighton Heights and Camborne area. So this summarizes the existing bylaw and the schedule that we're seeking to put into place with the amending bylaw. Next slide. And correspondingly, the non-residential charge would be just once again within the Creighton Heights and Camborne area. Next slide. The last couple of slides is just presenting the charges for which we're seeking to put into place, and we're comparing those charges to other municipalities in the area or along the 401. You can see right now the green represents the existing charge that's in place. If you see two different colors there, the blue is basically the local municipality, and the upper tier, so the county, is basically what the orange is. So some municipalities within their area, the county impose charges. In other areas, they don't. So you can see that currently the charge in play is just over $10,000. And with the addition of water and wastewater, these are the additional charges we're looking at. And you can see that we're probably putting, if for water service, which most of these municipalities provide, is placing you at the middle of the range for these select municipalities. Next slide. And with respect to commercial, similar type of midpoint for the charges. You can see the highest being Prince Edward County, and their commercial rates are running over $35 a square foot. And then generally everybody else is, there's a significant number in the $10 to $15 range, and then a number that are in and around your charges. Next slide. And then lastly, industrial, you can see similar to the commercial charges. Some municipalities have reduced or don't charge industrial, others do. Currently, your bylaw provides for imposing the charge on industrial. Next slide. So that concludes the presentation, and I'm open to provide any clarification on the background study or the proposed bylaw. So I'd hand the meeting back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Gary. We will open this to the public for questions at this point in time. Do we have anyone with us wishing to ask questions?
We do, Deputy Mayor. We have one person with their hands raised. They're identified, and Emily will be helping out with this section. That she's identified as 315 Linda, and I would request that she states her name, please.
Linda, please feel free.
Hi, it's Linda Gowling. Hi, everybody.
Good
Can you hear me?
afternoon. Yes, we can, Linda.
So my question pertains to Creighton, and specifically page 3.2 of the report by the consultant, where it talks about total reserve capacity. It talks about the fact that there's an approved unbuilt lots of 49, which I get, that's Deerfield and other ones in Baltimore, which using their 100 units of develop would mean there's 51 units of spare water capacity. But yet we just went through this whole process of changing the zoning so that any further development is on private services. So I don't understand where we're going to be collecting 51 DCC charges if in fact people can't get water.
Gary, please.
Well, the calculations we provided for allow are based on the capacity that would be available through the water system. So currently, there is a certain amount of, while there are approved lots, if there's subsequent developments that happen or existing homes that are in the area that wish to connect, then they're included in that 100-unit allocation.
But my point is, in the summer, council rezoned so that you can't connect to the water system. So how are you going to collect DCCs for people severing off lots that are connected to wells? Because the capacity isn't there.
Well, the water capacity through the chair, the water capacity is there to allow for a certain amount of developments. I'm not quite clear of the bylaw. Maybe staff can help me out with the bylaw that you're referencing and what was contained in that. But the calculation here is based on the engineers have identified capacity within the system. And that's where the 100-unit of capacity comes from. But I'll ask staff to respond to the bylaw that you're referencing.
Arthur, would that be yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to through the chair. The discussion and the bylaw that was considered earlier this year was to allow for the potential for connection to private services or individual services in the Baltimore settlement area to allow for the full range. So it can be by service where they exists and where capacity exists. And we are also willing to consider proposals for private services as well. So I stand corrected, but I don't believe there's any prohibition on the connection to public service.
So someone doing a severance right now, there's water available? There's 51 units of water available?
From the data and the analysis that's occurred, that's what the information tells us, but obviously, and that's what we're proceeding with on the basis of this calculation. Yes.
Thank you, Arthur. Linda, do you have any further questions?
I guess not.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anyone else available or wishing to speak?
I don't see any additional hands raised, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go to our council members. Any questions for Gary? Pat, I believe that's a yes from you. Please feel free.
I just have two. The first one's very simple. When it in your chart, when it talks about single, detached, and semi-detached, is the semi-detached considered 2 units or 1?
Each of those units would be considered 1 unit.
Okay, so a semi-detached building would have 2 units of cost to it.
Correct.
Okay, that was one. And I just wanted to make sure that I understood one other thing you said correctly. For people who are currently on a private well, who have availability of municipal water, it is their choice as to whether or not they want to hook up the way this is written right now.
Yes, if there was, now it wouldn't be, if they're an existing unit, then it would, yes.
I'm
If they
talking
wanted
about
to hook up to the
existing.
system, those would be the charges.
Okay, thank
That's
you. That's all I needed.
Mark, do you have any questions?
The only thing that comes to mind would be just can you just explain the timing then? So if we pass this in January, when will that bylaw take into effect? Is it 60 days after or 30 days after?
It would, through the chair, it would take effect immediately. unless you wanted to set another date after that point.
So there's no appeal period for that?
Well, the bylaw goes into effect immediately. There will be an appeal process, well, or the potential. What we do is through the clerk, she will provide an advertisement, and you have up to 40 days to
40.
appeal the bylaw. If there's no appeals, then the bylaw stands. If there's an appeal, then we'll entertain discussions and have a process to deal with the appeal. But the rates are in effect when upon the bylaw adoption.
Rates will be in effect then. Okay, thank you then.
Larry, any questions?
Well, I had one originally, but I think it was answered already with regards to Camborne, those homes that exist along Kennedy Road, that they will be required to place the DC charge if they hook up. Is that correct?
Sorry, are these existing homes or?
Yeah, yes, they're existing homes on the Kennedy Road stretch.
So if they're going to hook up to the municipal system, yes, they would pay the same charges.
Okay, so that will help offset some of the installation charges that we currently have. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from any of the council members or staff? Because we only had one person from the public, I just wanted to go back and see if anybody signed on late there. Did we get everyone addressed there?
Deputy Mayor, we do have 4 members of the public in attendance, and we've heard from one, and it doesn't appear that any of the other 3 have raised their hands indicating that they'd like to speak.
Yeah, obviously they're listening to us. If they have any questions, we will come back to you at this moment. Arthur, I see your hand, of course, please.
It's not a question, it's just a clarification, if I can, through you, Deputy Mayor Jib, and that's to Gary. Just Gary, I think you were answering a question a moment ago with Councillor Williamson raised about the existing lots on Kennedy Road having to pay the connection charge. And can you clarify if that's the development charge amount under this bylaw, or if that's the equivalent amount designed under the Municipal Act charges?
Yes, through the chair, there will be a parallel bylaw, which is under the Municipal Act, so that if you're new, you may be an existing home, but if you're connecting to the system, then basically you're new to the system. But because you're an existing home, we can't use the Development Charges Act. We use the Municipal Act. So it mirrors exactly the development charge calculation, but it's just a different, the Municipal Act allows for that capital charge, but we need a separate bylaw. That's all.
Thanks very much. Appreciate that clarification.
Pat, please.
So just a follow-up question, if I may. If you're one of the existing homes now, before this bylaw is in place and you want to hook up to water, what would it cost a person if they were asking today to have it hooked up?
Nezrat, I think you wish to answer that, please.
To you, Mr. Chair. It will cost approximately $8,700.
Okay, and then once the Municipal Act bylaw is in place, it will cost $8,700 plus the something that the new charges.
Through the chair, the charge will drop to the 7,700.
So
So it's at
again,
8250 right now, and then it'll drop down to the amount just below 7,500.
thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Any further questions or clarity? And apparently there's no further questions from the audience. Daphne, if I might turn to you under section 6.3 of our agenda, would it be appropriate for me to verbalize the recommendation as outlined under 6.3?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. We do have a printed recommendation. Emily can share the screen. We did, however, just notice that we have a member of the public who's raised their hand. So if you would be so kind as to hear Ken Andrus.
Please,
Thank
Ken's not on my screen at this moment, but please go ahead, Ken. Ken, you're on mute or something. We're not hearing you. Ken, are we still not hearing you?
Ken, if you are on the phone, I think if you press *9, you may be able to unmute yourself. Unfortunately, Ken, we're having trouble. We're not getting you unmuted.
I can offer Deputy Mayor Jib. Our deputy clerk had the instructions. Oh, there, he's freed up now. We had the instructions on how to take mute off. Wondering if that might help. Oh, you're off again now, Ken. Sorry, Chair, I was interrupting there.
Thank you, Arthur. Ken, go ahead and speak if you aren't already.
How's that?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, my screen just went blank on me. In any case, through you, Deputy Mayor, the question with the hookup today versus the hookup once the bylaw is passed stated that it would drop to 7,400, 7,500, whatever it is. Through my reading, is that $2019 or is that $2021?
Gary, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, through the chair, that's correct. The numbers I was quoting were the $2019. So they'll be indexed by just a second. Let me see if
I believe in your write-up, it was 10.5%.
Which I think brings it to, yeah, I'll have to do the math. Just give me a moment.
To you, Mr. Chair, if I'm not wrong, it's 8250.
Oh, it is 8250.
So that's 2021 rate.
Right.
Thank you, Nazrat.
Do we have any idea the 2022 rate?
I think your bylaw indexes, I'll have to take a look. I don't have it in front of me. No, we don't, until we have the StatsCan index, then we won't be able to do that calculation.
Okay, thank you.
If we look at, in the last couple of years, it's gone up roughly about 5% per year. There may be another uptick of $300 or $400, but till we have the StatsCan information, it's only a guess.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ken. Is there by chance anyone else in the audience, again, to our people in our clerk's office, clerk's department?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, no, the three remaining members of the public have not raised their hands or indicated that they'd like to speak.
Thank you. I'll come back to 6.3 on our agenda. Members, of course, of the public, our staff, and our council have had an opportunity to make comments and ask questions regarding the development charges update study and proposed bylaw. We do have a prepared motion in that it is recommended that the council of the corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council received the development background study report dated November 16th, 2021, presented by Watson and Associates. And it has been further determined that no additional public meeting is required, and further that the development charges bylaw be brought forward for consideration at the January 18th, 2022 council meeting. Could I have a motion here, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. 6.4 on our agenda, to rise from the public meeting and reconvene into regular council. It is recommended that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council rise from a public meeting under Section 12 of the Development Charges Act 1997 and reconvene to a regular meeting of council at, I have 1:42, or as corrected by our staff, on December 8th, 2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Pat, seconded by Larry. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. To our clerk's department, again, my hard copy of the agenda disappears here. I believe we're into a confirmatory bylaw, being bylaw 2021-1201. It is recommended that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That bylaw number 2021-61, being a bylaw to adapt the proceedings of council held on the 8th day of December 2021, and to authorize its execution to be given first, second, and third reading, and finally passed this 8th day of December 2021. Mover and a seconder. All those in favor? It appears as though our Mayor Bill Kane has joined us. Maybe he's done from another meeting. No, still in the other meeting. The only order of business is the motion of adjournment, and I thought we could flip those roles today, Bill.
Just wanted to come on to say thank you for taking that on, Scott.
I wish I did a better job. Thanks, Bill. Motion for adjournment. It's recommended the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That the regular council meeting held on December 8th, 2021 be adjourned at 1:44. Moved by Councillor Lotion, second by Councillor Williams. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone. And have a good evening.